Hi everyone, I'm Taysa Brown. I'm the Silviculture Performance Assessment Specialist with the Forest Science Planning and Practices branch. This is going to be a very short presentation explaining how to use SiteTools if you're using Growth Intercept to determine site index. Okay, first, if you need help on how to actually do Growth Intercept, I am not covering that in this presentation. Two great resources are shown on the screen, and they are both linked in the Silviculture Surveys manual. Highly recommend checking them out. Now, to determine site index using the growth intercept method, you need to have growth intercept tables, and they don't exist for all species in the province. To access these tables, you can look up the LMH field guide inserts. There's one for the interior, published in 1999, and one for the coast, published in 1997. Now, they're almost impossible to find with a Google search, but they are linked in the Silviculture Surveys manual. However, I don't love how they're formatted. I think the increments in tree heights and in ages is too large for silviculture surveys. So for example, if your breast height age is 4, a 2-meter tall height would give you a site index of 13. A 3-meter tall height would give you a site index of 20. Now, what if your breast height age is 3 and 2.5? What should your site index be? Now, in contrast, the tables in the growth intercept method for silviculture surveys works better for free growing age surveys. Here's an example right here. You can find them at the back of that report for spruce, pine, and hemlock. Now, in this table, we have site index across the top, breast height age down the side, and the values within are your top heights, your tree total heights. So if I go to breast height age 4, and I go to height of 2, that gives me a 13-meter site index. If I go to 2.2, 15, 2.4, 17, etc. So the resolution is far better, though again, only available for 3 species, and they also happen to be out of date. They were published in 1995, and for the interior species, there were new versions of these tables in 1999. So what should you do? There's well-formatted but out-of-date tables that only exist for 3 species, or you have poorly formatted but up-to-date tables for all other species. Well, the answer is SiteTools. All right, so how can you access SiteTools? Well, I'd start by just going to Google and typing in SiteTools. The government SiteTools website will pop up. Scroll down the website until you get to the software section and click on this link. You're going to then come to a different government software webpage. And interestingly, you can't actually download the SiteTools software alone anymore. It's now part of the TIPSY package. So scroll down to TIPSY and install it using this installation file. Once you have it installed, you're going to need to open up program files. So you can find that under Windows, potentially a C drive, and open up TIPSY. Within TIPSY, you'll see that there's a bunch of different folders, including SiteTools. So you then open up this folder, and something like this will pop up. You want to go to the SiteTools.exe file and give that a launch. All right, after you launch SiteTools, this is what pops up. So across the top, you can see that there's 3 main tabs. We have the calculator tab. Highly recommend checking out. It's really fun to play with. You could use it to get your growth intercept values. It's probably just a little bit slower than using the table tab. With the table tab, you can basically format and present growth intercept tables in different ways to make it really efficient looking at the values. So across the top, we have species. SiteTools has 24 tree species, though not all species have growth intercept curves. So for example, if we go to aspen, you see that under growth intercept curve, it shows as being NA. In contrast, if we go to larch, there are tables from 1999, and you can find them if you look at the field insert. But the field insert, like lodgepole pine, has those larger steps in height, so you don't have that high resolution. So we can fix that using SiteTools. So under calculation settings, let's now change that to interior and to planted. And in method, let's change it to site index by age and height. So right here, we have a growth intercept table, and you see that we have similar formatting issues as we did with field insert. Heights are jumping up by 5 meters, breast height age also jumping in increments of 5. And that's just not practical given we use Growth Intercept on stands, breast height age 3 to 30, so we don't need to go up to 100. And these heights just aren't reasonable for an even aged single layer regenerating stand. So we can easily fix that. So we have to go down to table specifications, and under age, let's just highlight this row right here and hit the pencil, which is edit selected item. So for range, let's switch it to 3 because that's the age at which you can actually start using Growth Intercept. And we're just going to pretend like for our block, all sample trees were between 3 and 7. We're going to make this step increments of 1. So you can customize this if your trees were all older, if it's all at least 7 years at breast height age up to 11, just change these values. But I recommend keeping it at increments of 1. So now the table has shrunk down. Now let's do the same for heights. So we click so it turns blue. We hit the pencil. For heights, let's go. You can do anything, though, again, you would want at least 1.4 meters since the tree needs to have 3 years of growth above breast height, which is 1.3. For large, let's go 2, and again, I'm just making this up for an example block, 2 to 3.5, and let's do our steps 0.1. So we now have our customized table. And if we just kind of look at the similar range as we did for the lodgepole pine, at 2 meters, the site index would be 17.8. So the values inside the table are your site indices. The values across the top are heights, and across the left-hand side is breast height age. So at 2, our site index would be 17.8. At 3, it'd be 23.1. So again, if you looked at the field inserts, that's all you'd have, and you'd have to calculate all the values in between. Instead, if you're 2.2, you can just quickly see it's 19.2. Whereas if you're 2.6, you're 21.3, et cetera, et cetera. All right, that's it. So my sales pitch for SiteTools, it will ensure that you always are looking at the most up-to-date information for site index, and you can present the information in really meaningful ways for free growing age stands by being able to set your height and your age increment steps. So I hope you'll check out SiteTools. If you have any questions, any feedback, feel free to reach out. Thanks.